That's a good one about church. That was not fun. Thanks.
I'm the shorter one.
Thank you for coming today. It really makes me feel good to be surrounded by people from different parts of my dad's life. As most of you know, my dad was a terrific storyteller. As it turns out, I am not a great storyteller. One thing I am good at is details, so I want to share a few details that I think of when I think of my dad. As my dad was a child of the Depression, and so he did not like waste. Me, as the youngest kid in the family, my chore at dinner time was to neatly tear the napkins in half. A whole napkin was a waste, he said. My dad would also be sure to shower when staying at a hotel. Use their water, not yours. God, he'd even hand wash his Sandsabelt pants at the hotel and not at home if he could. And I remember those pants hanging to dry on the hotel shower rod for probably 2 whole days. I'm not sure how it possibly took that long to dry because his pants were totally synthetic. Those things may seem stingy, but in fact my dad was one of the most generous people around, not only with money, but with time. One thing I love most about my dad was his ability to recognize and call out BS. He had this way of doing it unobnoxiously in a quiet and dignified manner. The comedian Jon Stewart has a great line about BS that I think my dad embodied. If you smell something, say something. One time in high school, he set up a meeting with me, him, my religion teacher, and the principal, who was a nun, about this convoluted and ridiculous situation about a missing textbook. It didn't matter who it was. My dad took on a nun. Another time, my dad helped to prepare me to contest a speeding ticket. He armed me with all the mathematical data that proved I could not be going as fast as the teacher said, based on the slope of the hill and other things I didn't understand. You all know my dad, so you know that it is 100% true that he went to the very spot on Route 1 in Norwood to do those calculations. A few years ago, I used the lessons I learned from him. A coworker was fired with no written warning or documentation of performance issues. Her supervisor and mine and the division director claimed there was documentation of it all, which wasn't true. That day, I walked into their office and told them in no uncertain terms why it was a load of BS. Unfortunately, I cried my way through almost the entire thing, but still, I was so excited to tell my dad about it. You would have been so proud of me, Dad, I said, and he was. I hope he looks down proudly on me every time I take on BS in the future. My dad taught me so much about music. I'm sure most of you know he loved music, but he also taught me a lot about art and movies. When I was about 10, he made the interesting choice to take me to see a screening of Dr. Strangelove starring Peter Sellers. I'm pretty sure I had no idea what was going on during that entire movie. Another time we went to see Disney's Fantasia together. I remember that there was a sign posted on the theater window that essentially said, "This is not a typical Disney movie that appeals to children. No refunds." He knew the music in the movie was supposed to be beautiful, so he walked right in with me without hesitation. And I'm pretty sure I wished we went to Cello's for pie instead. My dad exposed me to so many different kinds of music. He loved to make mixtapes, even before mixtapes were a thing. Some of my fondest memories are listening to those tapes while driving around with him in the back seat of that giant beige Buick Riviera with velour seats. I'd make fun of his lively hand movements that would always go along with his singing. In the 80s, both the song Eye in the Sky by the Alan Parsons Project and Eye of the Tiger by Survivor came out. This prompted a long-standing bet between us on which song would stand the test of time. I think everyone knows that The Eye of the Tiger is a forever classic, but Dad always said he won the bet. I learned to appreciate the art of Edward Hopper because of my dad. He had this big Edward Hopper coffee table book that I loved to look through. If you know Edward Hopper, you know so many of his paintings show a solitary person having a quiet moment in ordinary, everyday life. I know from a few different conversations that my dad and I shared, or that my dad and I had, that we shared a perspective on life that recognizes its sadness and loneliness. Honestly, despite my dad being known for his genuine joy of life and his big smile, that is something that keeps me connected to him in a unique way. Since my dad's death, one thing I have given a lot of thought to is what our final hug was like. I am so lucky and so grateful that my family and I spent time with him a few days before he died. I have a candid picture from that day of my older daughter, Margot, sitting on his lap with him smiling. I also remember that day him looking sweetly at my younger daughter, Audrey, and saying, "Gosh, she's really a pretty girl, isn't she?" But I just can't remember our goodbye hug. I know we had it, but was it long and genuine, or was it just quick as I rushed out the door? I still wish I could remember that hug, but in the past couple of days, I realized it's not about a last hug. It's not about the last moment we saw each other. I don't mean to be overly philosophical, and I'm certainly no mathematician, but what matters most is the sum of the parts, the sum of all the hugs. We had hundreds, if not thousands, of hugs, hugs that mattered and were true and that meant something. And that brings me great comfort. My dad would always quote Duke Ellington and write on a card, or say on a phone call, "I love you madly." Dad, I love you madly, and I will adore you and miss you forever. Thank you.